Hey there, nation. Welcome to another edition of Commander Cheapskate. This is the show where we show you how to save miniatures wargaming on a budget, and today we're talking about Cheap Shot number 2. This one's something that's kind of near and dear to my heart, and we're talking about how to save money when it comes to using gaming mats as well as tables for your miniatures wargaming. So I think it's kind of like a nice little issue to talk about. A lot of people, if you don't have a club to play at, like at a store you can play at where they have ready-made terrain, you got to supply your own gaming mats or your own gaming table. Well, this is a nice little way to talk about how you can save some money doing that. I know that some of these tables can be pretty expensive. Some of these mats can be pretty expensive as well. Well, we're going to show you a cheap and effective way of creating your own mat and make it look good at the same time. So, travel along with me on this money-saving journey. Alright, when it comes to wargaming tables, this is kind of the example of an ideal table. Something that's small, easy to put together, something that's lightweight that we can kind of put away, and plus it has some really good terrain on it. But unfortunately for us, a lot of us don't really have access to the ideal gaming table. Most of the time, if you're just like a novice wargamer, if you really don't have a lot of knowledge or skill or experience in the hobby, most of the time the only table you're really playing on is like either a dining room table or a kitchen table, whatever you can get your hands on or to play with. Your terrain is whatever you can get your hands on. If you're playing at a game shop, you just might be using the resources that are available there. So unfortunately, an ideal table like this might not be readily available to you. The alternative is to go into something really big to get like a purpose-built table that you can use for wargaming. This is an example of one of those that are really big on the market right now. They're known as Geek Chic. They're a company that basically makes purpose-built role-playing games as well as wargaming tables, and they're designed just to do exactly that. You can also put like a cover on the top to make it into a really nice like coffee table, or you can make it into a dining room table as well. The only problem is that the tables like this cost upward to $5,000 in some of these cases, and we're talking about thousands of dollars of capital being invested inside your wargaming. And I don't know about you, but a lot of us don't have that kind of cash just lying around. In fact, one of these tables basically costs as much as a used car or a down payment on a brand new car. So in the great scheme of things, finding the ideal table to play on basically isn't going to work. So most realities, our tables are a little bit different looking. In reality, you're playing on something that looks like this, which is basically just your typical folding table that you can buy at Walmart or any home improvement store. It runs us about 25 bucks is basically what you're looking at. So unfortunately for us, having a purpose-built table is not really an option. For most people, they can't even get this kind of table. Most people have to go to a local game store in order to get table to play on as well as terrain. Well, the subject of this one is to basically talk about how we can go about making these kind of tables and what kind of wargaming materials you could use in order to build a wargaming table cheaply, effectively, as well as making it look good on the battlefield as well. So let's go ahead and talk about that portion. The most common way that people usually get past this issue is with gaming mats. Now, gaming mats are kind of cool because they're made out of neoprene. Neoprene is basically kind of like a rubbery kind of plastic that's also made into a fabric. It's kind of like the same material that your mouse pads are made out of. It's the same thing that wetsuits and scuba diving gear is made out of as well. So when it comes to gaming mats, it's kind of neat because on one side you have textures or you have like really cool looking images. This one, for example, is from Frontline Gaming. For example, is like a swamp kind of motif on that part. It comes in various sizes from 4x4 all the way to 4x8 and higher. The only problem is that these kind of gaming mats can be pretty expensive. They can run upwards to $100 or more depending on what kind of material you want, what kind of size you want, and what kind of image you want on the front as well. Now, the nice thing about this is a quick fix to a table. You just buy whatever table that you have available, roll one of these bad boys out, put some on top of that can help out as well. But even then, $100 is actually quite a bit of money, and because of that, you might not want to spend on that because let's think about it. $100+ is actually quite a bit of money. It actually might be a lot more than you're willing to invest inside of your own little product there. So because of that, it might not be the option for you either to kind of fix your wargaming needs. I mean, after all, you could probably buy a really cool kit of miniatures for that price, if not the really big ones. So because of that, we're going to talk about how to make what my cheap alternative is. So what is the alternative to all this? What can we do in order to avoid spending lots of money, possibly thousands or hundreds of dollars on our wargaming stuff? Well, there's only one thing you need to do, and that thing is in my name. And that is to go cheap, my wayward son. Go forth and go forth cheaply is basically what you got to do. So let's talk about how you can build a wargaming table pretty cheaply, on the cheap anyways. First thing you're going to need to do is find the cheapest folding table that you can get your hands on. Preferably free would be best. If you go to like garage sales or something like that, or if you go to like a place like a banquet hall or something, or some kind of people that are trying to offload a lot of their stuff, you can find cheap folding tables. Graduation time. high school graduation times is the best time to go get yourself a cheap folding table, because a lot of people buy these things up for graduation parties, and when they're done, they're just basically kind of giving them away for free because they don't want them more, because either the kids are all graduated or they just don't want them anymore. So that's the first thing you do. Find the cheapest folding table that you can find, preferably one that's free. If you can't find one that's free, you can go to places like Walmart, Kmart, you can go to Target, you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's. You can find a pretty good one for anywhere from $20 to $25, maybe less. These white plastic ones are kind of nice because they're really lightweight and you can kind of store them pretty good. But you also want a table that's also straight enough to support a gaming board on as well. So that is step one. Find yourself a cheap folding table. Alright, once you basically get your table set up, what you need to do now is find a cover that should go over the table in order to make it look nice and also for you to game off of. So one of the cheapest alternatives is to get yourself a wool blanket. This one's made out of fleece in this picture. Something that's olive drab, so that way it looks like turf or grass for you to fight on. You can find this at any store that supplies fabric in any case. Walmart would be a good example of a place you can go for that. Hobby Lobby, Joann's, just whatever hobby store sells materials. This one made out of fleece is an example, like I said. It runs you about $6. It runs you about $2 to $3 per yard, depending on what kind of material you're using as well. In my opinion, however, the best gaming blanket, if you're going to decide to go with wool, is the old school Army standard issue olive drab wool blanket. You can find those for cheap, like maybe $1 or $2 at any military surplus store. That stuff is a perfect size to fit in a wargaming table. It's nice and smooth. It's really durable as well. It's got that perfect olive drab color, or the case may be. So that's option number one for your gaming surface. Option number two is any kind of green bed sheet you can get your hands on. So if you got a green bed sheet in your closet or in your linen closet, you could definitely use that. That's really cool. You could go to any store and buy this stuff. Basic one's about $5 to $10, depending on whether you're getting just a sheet by itself or if you're getting like pillowcases and things like that as well. It just depends what you want to do for that part. Just take this stuff, spread it on top of a table, and game away. Comes in a variety of colors as well. You really can't go wrong. So whatever the cheapest is the best, in my opinion. Or if you're feeling really fancy and you got the cash to do it, you could always go buy colored neoprene. It's the same stuff that those gaming mats are made out of, except that on one side, instead of having a design on it, you just basically have a solid color. So go out and find yourself some green colored neoprene. That runs you about $25 for about the 4x6 table. So you can also run that option as well. The only problem is that colored neoprene might be a little bit harder to find. You could probably find it on Amazon.com or eBay, places like that, or anybody who sells it online. Might not be able to find a fabric store, kind of hard to find, but they might have it, just depends. So those are some of those options that you can use for your table surfaces. Or you could buy a game mat, one of those things as well. But like I said before, a game mat's not really a good option in terms, in my opinion, because it runs you upward of $100+. So, I mean, they're cool and all, but still, the price, not for me. Alright, so let's talk about the pros and cons of going cheap. So let's talk about the pros. First of all, the price. It's really cheap. It is extremely cheap to do this stuff. You're talking about a couple of bucks at the most when it comes to the gaming surfaces that you're going to be playing on. Same thing if you start counting in your folding table as well. It's not going to cost you all that much money as well. Also, it's also easy to replace. If you damage one of those really expensive gaming tables or gaming mats, you got to pretty much buy a brand new one because they're kind of purpose built. So because that might cost you thousands or hundreds of dollars to get that material replaced. You rip a wool blanket, you just go buy another one. Or if a bedding sheet, just go buy another bedding sheet. Your folding table breaks, you can either fix it with some nuts and bolts or buy a new one. So they're very, very easy to replace as well. Plus, you also have a multitude of choices as well for both tables as well as the gaming surface that you're playing on. So definitely have that at your hand as well. Plus, you can get this stuff anywhere. Anybody can buy this stuff at any place, really. I mean, there's not a lot of places that don't stock these materials, so you can possibly get them pretty easily. The cons of going cheap, however, is not as neato, bandito, frito, coolio looking as the other stuff is. Granted, gaming mats are really cool. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for the cool factor. So that is a con. It's not as neat as that stuff. And a second con is that you will have to put some work in by mounting this stuff and also getting it putting it down on a table and kind of building it. So, but you know what? That's just the benefit of saving money, in my opinion. Alright, so let's talk about the pros and cons of using a gaming mat. Basically, the only real pro to using a gaming mat really is that it looks good. I mean, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for a gaming surface that looks good, that's easy to roll up. You can store pretty easily. It looks awesome on the gaming board. That's what you're really paying for. The plus, additionally, it's also no work involved as well. That's a pre-made item. It's purpose-built. You can just use it directly as needed. The con, however, for this is that the price. And really, that's all that needs to be said on that one. So let's go ahead and talk about the happy medium in that case. In my opinion, the best way for you to go about making a gaming table is to get a folding table, get some MDF board, and get ready grass. Ready grass is a type of vinyl-backed material that's being used by Woodland Scenics. It's basically used by a lot of people who do the railroading type of hobbies as well, miniature railroads. It's kind of like a cool little substance to use. It basically has texture on it. It's basically like flock that's been kind of like glued down onto a sheet of vinyl as well. So it looks pretty nice. You got a nice little three-dimensional textured gaming surface. It has a nice green color to go for it. Plus, this stuff is really cheap as well. We're talking about, around $35 for this part. It also comes with these huge 50-inch by 100-inch sheets. So you talk about this massively huge roll of stuff that you're getting for pretty cheap on that part. And you can cut this stuff, you can glue it, you can mount it, you can use it for terrain, you can heat shrink it. It's really awesome stuff, and it's really cheap. I got this stuff in my example here at Hobby Lobby. So it's kind of like a happy medium between both a gaming mat as well as a step up from not paying a full price for one as well. Here's a picture of it to start our wargaming. As you can see here, I just kind of cut out a sheet of it and just laid it flat so that way you can take a look at it and see how it looks. And as you can tell, it looks really good. It's a really good stuff. It looks good at a distance. It looks good up close. It's got texture on it as well. Basically, it feels the same role of a gaming mat that has got that vinyl back in the back, so it kind of reduces the amount of noise of rolling table and that kind of stuff. If you notice on my wargaming table in the left-hand corner, you can see how it's kind of peeling right there. That's because this gaming table was the cheapest table I could find, and it came at the best price as well. And that price was free. I got this from a family that was done with a graduation party. They didn't know how to get rid of their table, and so I was like, I'll take it off your hands for free. So that's what I basically use for mine. So as you can see here, this mat stuff for the vinyl mat is actually pretty good looking. And so yeah, let's talk about how you could use this to create your wargaming table. Step number one is cut your sheets to size. You can see in this example, I have the mat on the other side of the board. As you can see, I flipped it over to the back. As you can see, that's the white vinyl backing that this material is made out of, so it's kind of nice that way. In my wargaming table, I got a really cheap folding table. What I did is I bought 3 sheets of 2 foot by 4 foot 1/4 inch thick MDF board. And the reason why I got that is because MDF is relatively light. It's not as heavy as particle board or plywood. You can get them in 2x4 cut lengths already at any hardware store. They run you about $5 to $6 a sheet, so that's really nice as well. Plus, if I wanted to store this table, it makes it really easy. Having a huge 4x6 table is kind of hard to get rid of, but if you break it down to 3 sections, 2 foot by 4 foot sections, you can make a 4x6 table. You can store them inside of a closet or off to the side of a shelf on the other side of a bookcase, for example. So it's really nice. So figure out what your size of your board is going to be, then take this vinyl matting and basically cut to size. And this is basically where the work comes in. Once you figure out the sheet of the size you need, what you're going to do now is you're going to glue it to the back of your board. So as you can see in this example in my garage, what I basically did is I rolled up the grass turf, rolled up to a nice little roll. I bought a can of spray adhesive that I got from Walmart for about $1. Basically started spraying the board, and you slowly roll out this mat onto the board inch by inch, and basically make sure you get a good seal and get a good little adhesive going on, and make sure you smooth your board out as you're unrolling the mat to basically attach to your boards. Once you cut it to size and trim it up to make it look nice, you're pretty much done. And this is what the finished product looks like. As you can see, it's a really nice gaming board for the cheap, basically how it rolls out. So as you can see, I got my 3 sheets of 2x4 MDF board, which is about a 1/4 inch thick. I've got that vinyl mat kind of glued on the top of the gaming surface. It looks like a really good gaming surface to play off of. When you see my battle reports, you'll see some close-ups on it. You can tell how much of a good quality it is. It's easy to do, pretty cheap altogether. Told this project ran me about $25. I'm not trying to run 25 bucks. Ran me about, I would say about 55 bucks. So it's about 25 bucks for the mats and stuff. So yeah, ends up being a really cheap, easy product. As you can see, it looks good, and we saved a lot of money in the process. Alright, so let's give you an idea of what the savings looks like. So potentially by doing it with this method, you could potentially save thousands of dollars, and you can buy miniatures instead. Just like that $5,000 gaming table, if you just circumvent that, you can buy a lot of miniatures. So you can probably buy entire armies for that amount of money. So that's kind of cool as well. Gaming mats are kind of neat. I do see the appeal on them, but at $70 saved by doing it the other way, you can use that money to buy some cool minis instead, which is kind of cool as well. And at the end of the day, when you think about it, it's all about the hobby. The idea of the hobby is to create something, not consume something, all right? The people talk about how there's too much consumption. People are becoming consumers. Well, this is a nice way of sticking to the man that way. You're not consuming anything more at this point. You're basically creating. So that's something to look at that as well. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of Cheap Shots number 2 for my videos about how to save yourself some money on wargaming, especially when it comes to building yourself a wargaming table or deciding whether you want to buy a gaming mat or what kind of surface you want to game on as well. I'm sure this video will cause a lot of discussion, a lot of back and forth on this part, but you know what? They don't call me Commander Cheapskate for nothing. So for now, that is it for now. It's our next Cheap Shot. Once again, feel free to like, subscribe, put in your comments, both positive and negative, only helping my videos basically getting out better and getting you more information that you can use to save money in your wargaming. So until next time, folks, catch you on the flip side.